We are continuing with the properties of exponents. We have talked about 5 of the 7 properties of exponents. We're going to review them here and list them all out so we have them all in one place. You should be taking notes, writing down what I am on the board, paying attention, making sure you understand the material. The first property of exponents is if I have 2 exponents, I am multiplying 2 things that have the same base. So x to the a times x to the b. We can add those exponents. We can say that that's the same thing as x to the a plus b. We have also said that a negative exponent should never be in our answer. If the negative exponent is on top, we're going to move it down to the bottom and make the exponent positive. And if I've moved everything off of the top, I should put a 1 there. Property number 3 says if I take any number or any variable and raise it to the 0 power, that is the same thing as 1. Property 4 we looked at last week. It was called power of a power. If I have x to the a power and then raise that to another power, so power of a power property, in that case we multiply the powers together, x to the a times b. Property number 5 said if I have x times y and I am raising it to a power, x times y to the a. As long as it's multiplication, I can distribute that exponent. That's the same thing as x to the a times y to the a. Those are the 5 properties that we have looked at thus far. We have 2 more we are going to look at. Number 6 is actually kind of similar to the first one, but instead of multiplying, I'm going to divide. So if we have x to the a divided by x to the b, if we divide 2 things that have the same base, what we're going to do is we're going to subtract their exponents. So when we multiplied, we added the exponents. When we divide, we subtract the exponents. And the 7th and final property is really, it's the same thing as number 5, but if I multiply, we said we can distribute. The same thing's true if we divide. X divided by y all to the a. I can write that as x to the a divided by y to the a. Now, it's true if we multiply or divide, I can distribute an exponent. But it is not true if I add or subtract. If that's a plus in there or a minus, we cannot distribute in that case. So these are the general properties. Let's go ahead and take a look at some, particularly that deal with 6 and 7 here. So example 1 asks us to completely simplify each of the following. Remember, in order to be completely simplified, we should never have a negative exponent. So our final answer should always have a positive exponent. Part A, let's do z to the 8th divided by z to the 2nd. Z to the 8th divided by z to the 2nd. So I'm dividing 2 things. When I divide 2 things, we said that we subtract their exponents. So that's the same thing as z to the 8 minus 2, which is 6. Z to the 6th is correct. Part B, again, completely simplify. Y to the 11th divided by y. Y to the 11th divided by y. We're dividing, so we should subtract exponents. So we're going to do y to the 11 minus If there's not an exponent written, it's understood to be a 1. So we have y to the 10th. Part C, let's do x to the 5th divided by x to the 8th. X to the 5th divided by x to the 8th. Again, we're dividing, so we're going to subtract. 5 minus 8 gives us -3. We can't circle that or box it and say that that's our final answer because we have a negative exponent. So going back to property number 2 here, if I have a negative exponent, I can move it down to the denominator and make the exponent positive. So instead of x to the -3rd, I'm going to put x to the +3rd, but it's going to be on the bottom. Those are the same thing. And I moved everything off of the top. I don't have anything in my numerator anymore. So we put a 1 there. As always, if I'm going too fast, feel free to pause the video, let everybody get caught up. Example 2, same directions. Completely simplify each of these expressions. Let's go w to the 7th times w to the 4th divided by w to the 8th. W to the 7th times w to the 4th divided by w to the 8th. We're going to take care of these one step at a time. Notice in the numerator, I'm multiplying two things. When I multiply, I add up the exponents. So I'm going to do 7 plus 4 gives me 11. And now I'm dividing two things. They have the same base. They're both w, so I do 11 minus 8. I get w to the 3rd. Part B, let's go 17 to the 4th divided by 17 to the 2nd. Even though this is a number, we do it the same way. Notice here I had w to the 11th divided by w to the 8th, and it was w to the 3rd. I didn't do anything with the w's. They stayed the same. Same thing here, 17 to the 4th divided by 17 to the 2nd. I don't do 17 divided by 17. All I do is keep the base the same and subtract the exponents. 4 minus 2 gives me 2. 17 to the 2nd, which with a calculator you could square 17 and simplify it from there. We're going to leave it as 17 squared is fine. If you do simplify, it's 289. Part C, we are going to go 18 p to the 6th divided by 3 p to the 10th. 18 p to the 6th divided by 3 p to the 10th. Let's start with the exponents here. I've got p to the 6th divided by p to the 10th. So I'm dividing. When I divide, I subtract exponents. 6 minus 10 gives me -4. Because we subtracted exponents here, I see a lot of people do 18 minus 3 and put a 15 here, which is incorrect. Remember, we're dividing. And when I divide, if I have exponents, that's where I subtract. But this is just 18 divided by 3. 18 and 3, those are just numbers. 18 divided by 3 is 6. I just divide them like you typically would. Notice the p has a negative exponent, which means it needs to get moved. P to the -4th becomes p to the +4th, but on the bottom. The 6 does not have a negative exponent, so it stays on the top. 6 over p to the 4th. Example 3, still same directions, completely simplify. Let's go 4a to the 9th, b to the 2nd, c to the -5th, divided by 6, a to the 11th, b, c to the -9th. So we want to start by dividing the coefficients. I have 4 divided by 6. Well, 4 divided by 6 does not come out even. So 4 divided by 6, we want to try to reduce it. I can divide the top and the bottom both by 2. That's going to reduce to 2 over 3. So the 4 over 6 becomes 2 over 3. I subtract the exponents on the a's. 9 minus 11. 9 minus 11 gives me -2. Subtract the exponents on the b's. Here I've got 2 minus 1. 2 minus 1 is 1. And when I subtract these, I'm always going to just put them on top to begin with. And then if they have a negative exponent, then I'm going to move them down to the bottom. And I'll do that on the next step. For the c's, I've got -5 minus -9. -5 minus -9. Remember, I'm subtracting them because I'm dividing. Minus minus, we change that to plus. -5 plus 9, that's the same thing as 4. To write our final answer, any negative exponents get moved. So the 2 is fine, the b to the 1st is fine, c to the 4th is fine. But on the bottom, I need that 3, and this a squared needs to move down because it had a negative exponent. Part B, last one. Let's do 2m to the 6th divided by m to the 4th all to the 2nd. 2m to the 6th divided by m to the 4th all to the 2nd. The first thing I can do is divide. So I've got 2 divided by 1, that's 2. M to the 6th divided by m to the 4th, 6 minus 4 is 2. When I divide, I subtract exponents. That 2 just stays on the outside here. Now we had a property that said if I multiply in here, which I am, I can distribute this 2. So I have 2 to the 2nd, and I have m squared to the 2nd. 2 to the 2nd is 4. M squared to the 2nd, power of a power. I multiply my exponents. 2 times 2 is 4. 4m to the 4th. That is it for today's notes. You will have some IXL to work on as well as some practice problems.